Hey, what's up guys? Nate here from WASD20. Just sneaking away into a corner of my house here to film a quick video about my impressions of the Battlefield 1 beta, and also kind of give some tips for new players who are trying out the Battlefield 1 beta and maybe never played a Battlefield game before. You may hear some kids screaming in the background. The house is in chaos right now. We're getting ready for we're getting ready to sell our house, so it's a little bit of chaos around here, but I thought I'd sneak away for a quick video, share my impressions of the Battlefield 1 beta. Been playing it for a couple days now, and overall I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy with what I see, and I'm optimistic that this is going to be a solid game that I'm really going to enjoy. I have played Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 extensively, a lot of the DLC, lots and lots of hours, and just love those games. They're fun. They're some of my favorite games, and I've never been a big fan of multiplayer first-person shooters. You know, played a little bit of Counter-Strike back in the day, but never got into the Call of Duty thing. But the past few years, I've really enjoyed the Battlefield games. They're just a lot of fun and do some really unique things in terms of shooters that I really appreciate. Battlefield 1 so far feels like a Battlefield game. It feels like the Battlefield game that I've come to expect. It's only in beta right now. Sure, there are some bugs and funny things going on, but for the most part, I'm really optimistic about what I'm seeing and feeling like, okay, they're on the right track here, and I'm excited for the game to be released in, I think, November. So yeah, the map that they have right now, I think is in Northern Africa, if I remember correctly, and it's just got a really cool feel. The game looks great. It's beautiful. It's got sandstorms in this desert area. It really looks nice. And the feel of the weapons feel really good. It does feel unique. It feels like, okay, this is not just another Battlefield game. This is not just Battlefield reskinned with World War I weapons. The weapons do feel a little bit different. But, you know, I will say, I don't want to make this a huge historical rant, but I will talk a little about the historical accuracy of the game, which I think is, it's definitely stretching a lot of things, which maybe that shouldn't be a big surprise. So the weapons that they have in the game, a lot of them feel like, okay, this is a pretty big stretch. Maybe this was a weapon that very limited numbers of troops had at the very end of the war, that you are now making kind of the standard weapon from the beginning of the war. And so, yeah, it's a little ridiculous. Some of them are more accurate for sure and feel like, okay, this, you know, repeater rifle feels like something that they would have used. But from what I've studied of World War I, and I've taught a little bit of World War I to my students, some of these weapons are definitely like, I don't think so. Or maybe they had this weapon, but I don't think it worked like this. It certainly wasn't this accurate, etc., etc. So yeah, there is they do some things that are really cool historically. One thing that is completely new from any of the Battlefield games I've played is you get to ride on a horse, and you can pull out a sword, and you can either just trample guys, or you can swing your sword while riding your horse, which is a really cool feeling. Yeah, the charging with bayonets also can be really cool. So there are some things from World War I that they really do bring into this experience that I really appreciate. You know, the tanks feel pretty accurate, although a lot of those tanks they didn't have till the end of the war as well. Same with the planes. The planes, like at the beginning of the war, were just used for scouting. The thought of mounting a gun on a plane was just a foreign thought at the beginning of World War I. No one had done that. No one thought of that. And yet they have that in this game from the very beginning, pretty much. So there are some ways in which it's a little ridiculous, perhaps. But overall, I'm okay with hand-waving a lot of that because it's just a fun game. And I would take a fun game over a historically accurate game. Now, you could argue that it's totally possible to make a more historically accurate game that's still fun. Sure, maybe. I don't know if it would feel like Battlefield, really. I'm not sure. So that's a little about the weapons and the equipment. Also, you know, a friend sent me the cover image and said, how historically accurate is this? The cover image shows a black soldier apparently holding a German pistol with this cape blowing in the wind, and it's just like, oh boy. Okay, so it looks like a German soldier. From what I can tell, I've did a little research, and yes, Germany may have had very limited number of black soldiers, extremely small, tiny fraction, right? And you know, having studied and taught World War I previously would have said no, absolutely none. But there were German colonies in Africa where perhaps they got troops. So is it possible? Yes. But it is absolutely not representative, I guess, of World War I Germany, right? And so it's really interesting that they picked a black soldier for kind of that cover image, when Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, that would have made perfect sense. and yet those both feature white soldiers on the cover. So I don't know, anyway, I won't get too much more into that, but anyway, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is more representative of World War I than I think it is. If so, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you about that. So they take a lot of historical liberties, but again, the game, it's fun. It's a solid game. It's an open beta right now, so I would recommend you go download it. You do have to download Origin, unfortunately, which is another thing. It's just like, yeah, I've gotten used to it, but it doesn't make it nice to have like 5 different gaming clients on my computer right now. Whatever. So the game is available with both Conquest mode and Rush mode right now, both of which I really enjoyed. Makes me hopeful, makes me really want to play some Europe maps, though. I'd love to see some Western Front type stuff and see how they handle trench warfare between Germany and France, which was just, you know, they were entrenched. And I wonder how they're going to capture that feeling of no man's land. Will it feel like no man's land? Will it feel like, oh boy, you don't want to go over the top, this is going to be dangerous, but sometimes we got to do it, right? Or is it just going to be free-for-all running around? I have a feeling it'll feel a little more free-for-all running around, but I'm hopeful that they'll try to, I don't know, make it feel a little bit more like World War I than this current map does. We'll see what happens in the final game on that. All right, now I also wanted to share just a few tips for new players and some things that I've been noticing that are driving me nuts and I have to get off my chest here. One thing is spotting enemy soldiers. When I'm playing the game, I've got my hands on the keyboard and the mouse, and I'm always hitting that Q button. Q, 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 using this ring finger right here. Always hitting that Q button. When I see enemy soldiers, Q, Q, Q. It spots enemy soldiers, it puts them on the map for your teammates, and it also even gives them verbal indication that there's an enemy nearby and all that stuff. It's super helpful for your team if you are spotting other soldiers. So keep hitting that Q button whenever you see enemy soldiers. Even if you don't see enemy soldiers, I'm scanning a horizon, I'm hitting Q, 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 just in case there might be someone there. And that's something that is super important to the battlefield, and it helps you because if one of your teammates kills that soldier, then you get a spot bonus too. So that always helps. The other thing is, if you are a squad leader, hit that Q button on the objectives. Mark objectives for the rest of your squad. It drives me nuts when I have a squad leader that does not mark the objectives. I think you have to double tap the Q button on an objective, and that kind of indicates, hey, here's our focus. So it gives your squad a focus and helps you work together a little better. And it also gives you all a point bonus when that objective is actually captured. So something that's super helpful that people need to do a lot more of. I haven't noticed very much of that going on. Another kind of Battlefield basic, one of the things I love about Battlefield is they reward you for things other than just shooting people. They reward you for more than just getting kills in some pretty significant ways. I was often like second place on this team of 20 or whatever people with 5 kills when everyone, you know, this guy had 22, this guy had 15, and you know, I'm up there with 5 with these guys because I'm doing a lot of those other things that support, like spotting, like marking objectives, but also like dropping med packs, dropping the ammo, all this stuff. It all earns you points in Battlefield, and they really do a good job in the Battlefield games of rewarding you for things other than just killing enemies. So that's just something to keep in mind too. Make sure you know your class and know those other abilities that you have to support your team. All right, rant over on that. So anyway, I do recommend people go out and check out the Battlefield 1 beta, which is an open beta right now on PC. Go download it. You do have to get Origin, remember. And check it out. Let me know what you think. If you've played the Battlefield 1 beta, I'd love to hear from you down below. They haven't given any indication yet of when it's going to end, to the best of my knowledge, but I imagine it'll go for a couple more days maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, love to hear what you think as well. Share your thoughts with me. If you have any questions, comments, make sure you're subscribed. And if you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up. Everybody take care. You'll see me again very soon, hopefully on a more permanent, stable setup, but we'll see.